Right, so broadband by numbers. Who's excited about Unify? Hands up. Excellent. I actually am very excited about Unify, and I think I'm a great supporter of the initiative. I mean that sincerely. I thought we start from scratch, so I've got 18 minutes, and I'm the timekeeper sitting over here. I thought we start from scratch, and I thought I'd share with you some really geeky figures. And these geeky figures are going to be about broadband in Malaysia and broadband globally and what our expectations are. So let's start. Right? Clear blackboard. Clear blackboard. So let's start with a fresh piece of paper. I want you to control alt delete in the Redmond world or command control power in the Cupertino world. Whatever, can I say that in this office? Anyway, whatever, whatever data that may be in your head about broadband. So let's start again. So clean sheet of paper, clean blackboard. What do we have? We have the following figures. Shh, come on, guys. They fed us. Let's be nice. So 100 million, 43%, 15% slash 70%, negative 65 over 2, 1100, 2800, 10500, 50%, more than 60%, and 6.75. These are the numbers that we'll be talking about broadband, and hopefully we'll give everyone here what I would like to believe to be the insider's view to what broadband is about and the challenges that we face and the potential that it has. So are we ready for our first figure? 100 million. 100 million is the number of US homes that the Federal Communications Commission targets to have 100 megabit broadband, affordable 100 meg broadband by the year 2015. Feeling depressed? That's how it's supposed to start. By the same measure, Suruhanjaya Komunikasi dan Multimedia Malaysia or the Malaysian Commission for Multimedia and Communications has defined broadband as anything above 256 kilobits per second, as endorsed by the ITU, the International Telecoms Union, and as well as the definition for HSBB or high-speed broadband is anything above 4 megabits per second, right? It's not a bad start. So I'm going to start on one side, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate and be a right difficult person and jump onto the other side. Now, next number. 1,000 megabits per second. The minimum broadband speed the FCC targets to have at schools and hospitals in the US, all schools and hospitals by 2015. 1 gig per school per hospital. Any of you want to read this? Is a great plan called at broadband.gov. It's a national broadband plan of the US. And no, it was not copied from the national broadband plan of Malaysia. That was about 3 years ago, although they're very, very similar, believe it or not. And you'll be surprised. And the final number on this slide that I want to put on is 0.5 Mbps, the average broadband speed available at most of our 10,000 schools today. So this is the scenario for broadband in Malaysia today. Right. Now, so 100 million homes represents about, roughly speaking, about 85% of US households. The US, depending on how you look at it and how liberally they live, has about 130 or 120 million households. At least someone caught that. And the gig is a target to have at schools by 2015. So what makes us different from them? I think that's the first question we need to start. And the US isn't really a great example. The greatest example in the world, people like to say, is one of those disgusting Scandinavian countries where healthcare is free, public transport is great, maternity leave is like 2 years long, etc., etc. You know, your boss comes to your house to cook for you while you breastfeed the child. So that's the Scandinavian countries, right? So people always tend to believe that Scandinavian countries have got the best standards. Actually, the highest megabit per second per household penetration in the world is in Kimchi land, Korea. That's right. So most of us know Korea for bibimbap and kimchi and the rest of it. They're also known for broadband. And as a result, they have effectively 4 major wireline broadband players, bundling IPTV, voice, data, connectivity, etc., etc. And there are 4 of them. They're massive. Anyone want to guess how many of them are making a huge amount of money? None. Anyone want to guess from their broadband operations how many are making money? None. All of the fixed broadband players in Korea, via proper segmental accounting, are all losing money. And they have been losing money for the last 2.5 years or so. So KT, SK, which bought over Hanaro, etc., they're all losing money. Still want to ask for cheap broadband? Yeah, I mean, I work for a telco. You think I'm going to come here and shoot myself in the foot? Still want cheap broadband? No, sorry. Starting. See, you fell for it, right? Clap, clap, clap. Now you fell for your own trap. Now. Okay. So 43% is the average speed US consumers experience versus the speed advertised by their service providers. So again, if you go to broadband.gov and download all 450 pages of the National Broadband Plan, somewhere in there, they've done some surveys and they found that if, for example, the actual speed advertised is 10 meg, or the advertised speed is 10 meg, the actual experience speed is 4.3 meg. Okay, so bearing in mind the data you saw on the previous slide about how our infrastructure is kind of doing, anyone want to guess what the new standards being imposed by Suruhanjaya Komunikasi dan Multimedia Malaysia are? Any ideas? 85%, 95% of the time. Yeah, so it's like kind of asking me to do what Suresh does. I mean, you kind of understand what I mean, right? So, yeah, so walk before you can jump, you know. Yeah, okay, we're thinking and wanting are two different things. Thank you, sir. The steepest hill I've climbed in 10 years is Bukit Bintang, so let's just leave it at that. So, 43% is the average speed and 85% here. Now, I'm going to, if I run into extra time, I'll just hit you over the head and throw you out the door, because I really want to share this. You guys want to hear this, right? So I'm going to throw you some facts. The reason why broadband quality sucks in Malaysia is because of the company that I work for. I can't mention it. Because... But we're responsible for why broadband sucks, because we were supposed to be the alternative player to the big blue hippo. I can't mention their name either. But we kind of screwed up over the last 15 years. So there was no competition, and so they just went, right? That's one. Secondly is because actually the quality of copper in Malaysia, and this ain't no excuse, is very, very poor. And Malaysia being a mix, the problem is our town planning is horrible. And as a result, you go to one area, you've got shop lot, auntie selling kueh, then you've got high density residential, then you've got bungalow lots, and you've got office, right? And as a result, it's very difficult to deploy a single type of ubiquitous technology, whether DSL, GPON, Metro Ethernet, whatever, to try and address the needs. Because different people have got different needs. So this fragmented architecture starts. And when it starts, we're stuck in a situation where we cannot consolidate and we cannot get our costs down. So town planning affects the issues that we have. Secondly is the fact that, you know, obviously our local councils, the Majlis and the Dewans and so on and so forth, you know they're the most integrous organizations in the world. They have the most integrity, right? So that helps as well. It helps that they're honest. And they buy the book, you know, that always helps, right? And they're very quick with applications. So, and for all these reasons, when you start accumulating them, you actually realize that we are in phenomenal trouble. Okay, so no one is denying that we are in phenomenal trouble. And no one on the industry side understands that we need to do something about it. The question is how. And when we talk about how, we need to understand a few more facts and figures. So let's keep going. So yeah, so I want to, where's Suresh? Is gone? But anyway, yeah, so I want to be like Suresh, right? That's what the MCMC wants me to do. Next number, 15% is the estimated percentage of home fixed line broadband users that clog up 70% of the gateway. How many of you here like to torrent? Hands up. You do realize you're in a Microsoft office, huh? Who are the kings of global copyright protection and digital rights management. Right, so it's those guys over here who you do all this stuff, which basically affects the speed of everyone else. Very unpopular question. So what I would like to say is, from now on, I would like to encourage you to look at sites approved by the government. And I would like you to consider looking at sites which are a bit more less exciting and more inclined with our cultural value. But you're falling for the trap again, because I'm going to hit the consumers back, see? I'm playing mind games with you and you're falling for it. So 15% is basically, and this is the absolute truth, right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not saying it's good or bad, because I torrent a whole load of stuff every day. But the fact of the matter is that it's the 15 out of 100 of you that's consuming 70%. If you read, there's a report in the Star Business today where the blue hippo big boss, I can say that, right? Yeah, the blue hippo big, I'm not saying he looks like one, he's a very nice chap. Please. The blue hippo big boss has said that 6% contributes to 80. I think that's kind of like a bit extreme. But in our experience, it's 17%. or rather 15% to 70%. So consider that, okay? So we talk about fair usage policy, download caps and so forth. Just park that in your head. 80% is the proportion of Malaysian internet user traffic that travels outside of Malaysia. There are 4 things which drive broadband pricing in general. Number 1 is culture, what language we speak, what content we seek. It's no surprise, therefore, that for a conservative majority Muslim country, Malaysians have the highest number of active adult friend finder users per capita of any other Asian country. Okay. So what I want to say is that the proportion of internet traffic, 80% has got to leave the damn country. And therefore it's got to go, and most of the time it hits the States. Look at all you guys who are all RedTube users. I can see the look in your faces. Right? If you haven't heard of Eskimo Tube, you should. I'm not kidding you. Indexing, guys, indexing. It's like Google, but for that side of the world. A friend told me. But what I want to say is that as a result, someone's got to pay for all this traffic. The internet started in the States. And because it started in the States, it's effectively free for US service providers to join. And over the course of the 90s and this decade, what we've seen is that the Asian players have got to pay to connect from here to the US. And what happens is that we have got to pay for submarine cable capacity, for example, from Malaysia, from Mersing to Hong Kong, Hong Kong to Japan, Japan to Los Angeles, to connect to the US on one end and then over to Europe on the other end. So because 80% of our traffic is going that way, we spend whatever a US service provider would spend, plus the cost of multi-billion-dollar investments to bring the traffic from the States back here, because we don't have content here. And why don't we have content here?
No domestic porn?
So, no. Because the internet is evil. It's against our cultural beliefs. We're not ready for it. Right? Now, 9% is the estimated amount of traffic that US service providers have to pay by chucking outside the country. So every time you click on something, there's an 80% chance it's going to leave the country, and there's a further 80% chance that of the 80% is going to hit to the States. Okay? Secondly, if you're a US service provider, your customers, only 9% of traffic is going to leave the States. So you understand the difference in economics and pricing or not? So what happens is that we pay good money to the evil likes of can I mention company names here? I can't. Damn it. Think of something. Yeah. No. I've been warned already. We pay awful amounts of money to the evil likes of AT&T, that's an abbreviation. And BT and SPRINT and VERIZON, all these people. Okay? We pay a whole load of money to them to basically connect. And what happens is we're helping fund their development. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'll never be a slim person. I have to accept that. And by the same measure, we have to accept that we are significantly disadvantaged in rolling out broad. See, you're even taking up in the talk. You forgot about the time. Got you too, right? Too late to remember now. Because I'm on a roll and I'm bigger than you. And effectively, that's how disadvantaged we are. Okay, so I want you to understand that. So we be very critical about what we're trying to achieve, or where we are. We talk about the challenges, and let's go to the next set of numbers. USD $65 per megabit per second per month. This is the average cost. I'm giving you inside information here. This is what our service providers, I can't mention the name, TIME, CL, COM, MAXIS, DIGI, TM, etc., pay. That's an abbreviation. That's how much the service providers pay to get international connectivity for 80% of your traffic. Okay, $65 per megabit per second per month. Right? So you want a one-to-one connection, right? You pay this much now. I mean, seriously. This is what it costs us just not to even connect to your homes. This is just to get it from Mersing or from the Causeway out to the rest of the world. On average, 65. You can reduce it to maybe 40 if you're a large player like the Blue Hippo, or etc., etc. Yeah? You want to know how much US providers pay? Right. They get paid $2 per meg per month. Because we pay to connect to them. So every time they connect, we connect to them, they use our international routes. because IP is full duplex. It travels both ways, right? So there's two types of traffic. When you click, we are an eyeball-heavy country. So when you click, the signal, the transmission going out is very small, the amount of data, but what you download is huge, right? So the US is the other way around, because people are connecting to them, so they're pushing content out. As a result, they effectively make, there have been numbers to be shown, if you go to broadband.gov again, they get $2 per meg per month. So it's not even a multiple time, this is the fact of the way things are. So why is this the case? This is the case because Malaysia Inc. screwed it up for us. Because we have an annoying country down south called SINGAPORE. Sorry, STI. Are you guys, are we live to Singapore? Hi. We are, oh crap, right? So this country down south decided that they wanted to be the gateway to Southeast Asia, and they liberalized the telecommunications sector. They got companies all over the world to land submarine cable. They liberalized, they got the cost down, etc., and we become like Kampong, New Zealand. If you know where that is. It's on the old Karak Highway, right? And what I'm trying to say is that we got islanded, pretty much. And their costs are always going to be lower, and we're never going to win that battle. And we can talk about making Malaysia a hub, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to happen. It's game over. The truth is that Singapore, like Hong Kong and Japan, have established themselves as full stop, as hubs. And that's not going to change. So what we got to do now is to work within our understanding and work within our challenges to get out of the situation. It's shown where economies have liberalized the telco sector quickest is where costs have come down fastest. And we missed that boat. So we're always going to be price of Singapore plus X. And I know you bloggers in the room are going to hate this, but that is the truth. We can't get around that. Unless you want to talk about subsidies again, but you know, that's another thing. Oh, I forgot. The Blue Hippo just got one. 50-1. As a result of these costs, this is the general contention ratio. We don't do this, of course, because we're nice. That Malaysian providers put in place in order to minimize their international gateway costs. So what this means is that for every 1 meg, for every 50 meg that we sell you, we normally give you about 1 meg. Okay, it's not that bad because only actually 1 in 80 of you is online at the same time. Can you believe that statistic? Isn't that amazing? And it even you get better efficiency when you calculate companies compared to consumers at home, because they've gone home and people at home are now using the internet, so there's extra bandwidth, etc., etc. So 1 to 50 is the average contention ratio. It is not much better in other parts of the world, I have to say. In fact, I think the guys down south actually have it worse. So you take into account these three factors and you realize that the reason why you're having slow speeds is predominantly because of the access infrastructure I was talking about, your copper, etc., plus the fact that we've got these type of costs to go and kick up. And just to give you an idea, when I first got into the business 4 years ago, that number was $650 per megabits per second. And the prices are declining about 30% every year. And the more submarine cables we add into the country, the more providers we bring in, the more people come up, the lower the prices will become. Because it's just about critical mass. And we haven't reached a critical mass as a country yet. Okay, next slide. And this is why I love Majlis Perbandaran Subanjaya. Oh, I can't say that. Sorry. MPSJ, MPAJ, DBKL. I love them because the cost in Germany, and this is just by a recent study that I've seen, the cost for a pretty established German provider to lay fiber to the home in Germany is about ringgit Malaysia 1,100 ringgit per user. Because the cities have common trenching, they have ducts that we can basically go and pull in, not the quack type, I'm talking about DUCTS. Okay? Because we've got ducts to put our fiber in, they're already existing under the road, and so the costs go down significantly. The cities have been well planned. In Malaysia, you want to guess how much it costs? Sorry? Don't lah, brother, don't take away my steam lah. 2,800 ringgit per user. So because all of us know that the average wage of a Malaysian blue-collar worker is 4 times that of a European one, right? So we're expecting the 2,800 bucks a month. So we pay 2,800 bucks a month for any provider, whoever we are, to go and lay fiber and to connect the core electronics to your home, not including all the funky stuff that we give you at the end of the day in your house. So it's basically 2,800 ringgit a month. And you know where the money is going, lah. They buy the luxury cars on the weekend, lah. What do you think? That's the whole point of this whole game. So as a result, 180 over 130 is the weighted average blood pressure of the industry CEO trying to deploy broadband. And this is the truth. You have no idea how frustrating it is for us to go into a local council and seek approval to dig the road. For example, we've been trying to dig the road around the KLCC area for the last 6 months because we're trying to deploy fiber to the home. And the answer is, oh, actually we cannot because we have Letur di Langkawi. And then after that, we have the International Marching Band competition. But if you want next year after the Innovate Malaysia conference, you can dig. These are the serious answers that we get. I'm not kidding you. These are the serious answers that we get. And so, in essence, what's happening is that the biggest hindrance to the rollout of broadband, the deployment of broadband, the speed to rollout, are the Majlis Perbandarans, the local councils. So find rotten eggs and throw. And we will support you on that. And the cost of digging the road, the civil cost, because of poor infrastructure, poor planning, etc., is 80% of the overall cost of deployments. You saw the 2,800 ringgit a month? 80% of that goes to digging the road. And you know what happens? Because we become a slush fund, right? There's a hard shoulder. You don't tell me about the time I'm going to whack you too. There's a hard shoulder, and I'm trenching on the left side, on the left lane. There's a hard divider. So I cut a slot about this big, and now we do micro trenching, which is only about this thin. You can't see it. It's on the white line. And they say, oh, you can bikey this side of the road, repave this side of the road, and the other side of the road. Because if not, it'll be a different color. It's dangerous. This really happens. You think I'm shitting with you, I'm not. This really, really happens. So this is a big issue for us. The blood pressure happens too. You can probably see that with your own eyes. This was a remarkable achievement by a telco set in the last year or so, that they rolled out 10,500 homes a day insofar as the FTTH deployment is concerned. 10,500 homes a day. Can you imagine how many that is an hour? This is the world record. You want to guess how many TM did? You want to guess? You're going to be very surprised. TM is the world record holder. Believe it or not, Unify is the quickest FTTH rollout in human history. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they have ready available assets on poles and so on and so forth, and they have 24,000 people. And as a result, this is the actual fact. So there's some, what I'm trying to tell you guys by sharing you with the numbers is, a lot of things are crap, but not everything is bad. And stuff which is good should be celebrated, stuff which is bad, you should pelt eggs in them. Right? And we need to be very clear about the both of them. So this is the world record holder, who happens to be our competitor. We're going to have a tough time. The 38% is the broadband penetration in the Netherlands. And I want to ponder on this slide for a bit more. How much more time do I have, actually? It's gone. Okay, I'll wrap up, okay? So 38% is a... No? Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. 38% is the broadband penetration in the Netherlands. 2009 GDP per capita on a PPP adjusted basis, $50,868 US. So obviously, the more affluent a nation is, Singapore is affluent, which is why they have new water. The more affluent a nation is, let's not get mistaken, the higher the PC penetration is, the more the spend is, etc., etc. And as a result, you expect to have higher penetration rates. So what happened is 4 years ago, our government, being all, wanting to win the election and all, decides that they are going to set a populist policy. And that policy is going to be that we're going to achieve 50% broadband penetration by 2010. What is our GDP per capita? It may surprise you, but Malaysians actually earn less than the Dutch. And our GDP per capita is 14,750. If you look at a site called the OECD sites, if you plot broadband penetration versus GDP per capita at our current state of 22% for fixed and 31% for those of you that use mobile, I can't give my comments because one of them is a sponsor today. If you just compare 21% to 38%, you will see that we are way off the chart already. Our broadband penetration should be 8%, which is what it is in Namibia, because that's our GDP per capita kind of band. So what makes us different? What makes us different is, I don't know actually. I've been trying to figure it out, but why we have so many adult friend finder, Facebook accounts, etc., we haven't figured it out yet. And seriously, no one's figured it out, because something doesn't give. If we are such heavy users of the internet, why is it that our broadband penetration is so poor? Or how are we able to achieve that with having a relatively low GDP per capita? So we are actually extremely IT savvy and extremely internet savvy as a society. And what I want to do is basically, I think is the next slide or the following slide, focus everyone down to what the real issue is. Okay? But before we do that, when you start talking about jumping from 38% to 50% and taking into account this huge gap in GDP per capita, you're talking about subsidies. And you're talking about having to get service providers to give them money to roll out, which is what happened with Unify. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because per subscriber, the subsidy given to Unify is actually less than what the Singapore government has given to Nucleus Connect, which is StarHub, and to Singtel combined. So we're actually not on the wrong track. So we talk about government subsidies, and I'm talking about money that was given to a hated competitor of mine. But I'm trying to be very, very factual about it and say that if you want to hit this type of penetration, then you better be able to spend money. How efficient that money is spent, we don't know. But the fact is that this is the principle of if you want to stimulate stuff. So this is a national program. Australia is doing the same. The US will start doing the same, etc., because we understand that broadband is a utility like highways, like power, like water, like sewerage systems, etc. So we need to go and build them, correct? Okay. So 38 to 50%, and 50% is what we're targeting by the end of 2010. It is possible. A lot of it is actually going to come from mobile. But some people don't consider mobile to be broadband. So those are two different things that you look at, right? And so these are things that we need to think about as a country. So what are we so unhappy about? Because if you plot even 21% that we are now on the curve, we are above the curve, right? But we all want to be like Singapore. So because we want to be like Singapore, we end up trying to set ourselves targets that we can't achieve. So, and that's one thing. Secondly, someone forgot to check what the PC penetration is. The PC penetration is less than 35-40% on average. As you see some numbers showing you 60s, because how many do you have in your home? 3, 4? Sorry? 2. Okay, so you already messed up the census by twice. Shame on you. But if you actually go out to rural areas, the answer is 0. Yet there are 3 million Astro dishes, 4.6 million households, 3 million Astro dishes, 1.6 million broadband lines. It's obvious what people's priorities are. La. Academy Fantasia. You know? It's obvious. So in order for you to drive that penetration or that adoption rate, you've got to culturally change trends. Now, you cannot culturally change trends by throwing money to people. However, this recent government idea of throwing out 600,000 netbooks across Malaysia is a damn good idea, because HSBB has stimulated supply. Now we need to stimulate demand. And if we can give out to school children, there are 200,000 school children taking their SPM every year or slightly more than that. Give them 200,000 netbooks, which don't cost that much these days, as you know, depending which OS you use. And if you pick the right one, ladies and gentlemen, please, jangan gairah. And depending on what OS you use, you can actually throw these things out and you're actually going to stimulate stuff, right? I mean, you can never afford an Apple OS because they're never going to give you stuff because they can't be bothered. I was actually praising Redmond, those of you in the room. And next slide. This is the real issue. The real issue is that more than 60% of us are unhappy with our broadband quality and speed. The truth is not about penetration, actually. Well, sorry, this sounded really bad. It's not about broadband penetration. It is actually about this, the fact that we are unhappy with our service and our quality. And over the next 6 to 9 months, as Unify gets rolled out, as Unify's competitor starts rolling out stuff as well, you will find that the speeds are going to increase significantly. As it is, just give it another 6 to 9 months. And you're going to see lots of things happening, because mobile, the swing from excitement from mobile to fixed is about to happen. Okay, so as a country, we're not really that badly off, is what I'm trying to say. And we will get back on the curve. And if we hit that 50%, we are going to be in the same band as the Netherlands. And we would have surpassed Estonia and Lithuania and Hungary. I think this is my second last slide. 20 ringgit a month. This is the indicative price that the Malaysian government has indicated to us service providers that they want us to provide national broadband to rural communities. My waistline is much more than 20. 20 ringgit a month. And I can tell you that on one hand we're saying we want to have better quality, and on the other hand we're saying that we want to have these type of prices. They don't gel. They just don't gel. You either have better service and quality, or you have cheaper services, poorer quality. I just shown you what the prices were, 65 bucks a month, US dollars. So what contention ratio am I going to have to apply? You know what contention is, right? How many times I give you? What contention ratio am I going to have to apply in order to give you 20 ringgit a month? I'm going to give you crap. But if you force us to do this, we have no choice but then to subsidize what you rich people are paying in town and your speeds and give it to the people in rural areas. And this leads to a real national dilemma. The fact that as a country, we have been lying to our people. We keep telling everyone that they're equal. They're not. Guess what? Tough shit, this is a class society. There are people that earn more than the others. I'm not saying we're going to ignore those that don't earn more, but these are the economic fundamentals. And you always tax the higher paying people with high disposable income to serve the lower paying people. But if you start offering these types of subsidies and giving universal targets, we are going to die because we cannot afford it. You guys understand what I'm trying to say? And that's why we have got to start thinking about urban penetration versus rural penetration. Even if you go to broadband.gov, the US FCC plan, it very clearly singles out urban versus rural. Because there will always be a lead of urban versus rural. There will always be much higher penetrations in urban versus rural. Okay? But what really, really gets to me, and I got, as you can probably guess, government officials don't like me very much. I just happen to work for GLC. But the fact of the matter is that 20 ringgit a month is what they're telling us to go and sell packages for, to bundle with netbooks and stuff. And my guesstimate from the time that I quit with tobacco is that you kind of spend 200 bucks a month on cigarettes. So something doesn't tally. Is that about, it's 960 a pack or something, is it? How much is it now? 870? How much is a pack of cigarettes?
970.
970, okay, you smoke the expensive brand. And you're poor. Right, so you're going to spend about 200 bucks a month on cigarettes, is that about right? 200 bucks a month on cigarettes, roughly, 150, 200, and 20 bucks on broadband, and guess what, 150 bucks on Astro. Academy Fantasia. Whatever network that's on. But you kind of get the idea. So this is the national dilemma. And this is something that we need to address very, very soon. Because if we don't, we're going to get it all wrong. So to summarize my 38-minute talk now, I think. How many minutes? 33-minute talk. I apologize for taking up so much of your time. We understand that we are in a poor place at the moment. But taking all the factors into account, the only thing that we are really, really upset about is quality and speed. Prices, do not expect prices to go down because of the fact that we cannot. We missed that boat, regulatory-wise. Right? Third is the fact that we need to start thinking about how we want to start rolling out to underserved areas in a meaningful manner. Right now, we build internet cafes called community broadband centers and expect people to go and surf. Right? It's not going to happen. They're playing Warcraft, is what's happening. Right? And we haven't thought about ways to stimulate demand in rural areas because we don't want an entire generation of children growing up in schools whose average population or average school size is 400 students to share a 500 megabit per second broadband circuit. Because then surfing the net, using the net, understanding what the net economy is about is not going to be part of the DNA, and we are going to be left behind. Circle back to most counties in the east coast of the US, in many school counties, in public school districts, and they're now giving out effectively netbooks and Macs, etc., to kids in the first grade or standard 1. So understand how far we are back, right? Now, and be realistic about what service providers can do. But what I will say is that it is a pretty damn good day for broadband. And things are going to get better over the next 1 year or so, and they will get exponentially better. There's no advertising in this, of course. And things will get exponentially better because there's more and more infrastructure being put in the ground. So you want to know what you guys can do?
Yes.
Number one, find rotten eggs. You know who to throw them at. I mean, seriously, it is a big issue. Make noise. So when we go to town and say that it's your majlis, which basically screwing up our deployment plans, support us. Because we want to lay fiber and we can't. Number two, what else you can do is essentially start surfing local sites, for God's sakes. You never been to Bernama TV, RTM? Absolutely. Which is hosted locally, absolutely. That's right, hosted locally. So that's what you can do. And thirdly, understand one thing. If you do something that's against the law, even though I do it as well, i.e. torrenting, you're not going to get away with it forever. So I understand you're all unhappy about the fair usage policy and everyone's whacking the providers and Unify and so forth for doing it. Understand that there isn't a choice. We have basically, as service providers, in some ways, we'd rather lose the 15% of the customers to keep the 85% happy. I know it's not what you want to hear, but that is the actual fact. And there's a lot of pressure from record labels, from TV studios, etc., to get us to stop copyright infringements and to stop illegal, what they consider to be illegal material. I don't, it's fine, to be flowing through our networks. Right? And so if you had waited, and so what I wanted to say at the end of it is, if you lived in Mont Kiara, over the 35 minutes that I was here, you could have downloaded 13.5 gigabytes worth of information on a particular fixed line provider. Thank you very much.